11:11, Chapter 5. My school had more than 4,000 students, 3,000 being boys, 10% possessing guns and charms. I was aware, a no-brainer, when I had dons who were always at my beck and call, who before my initiation had always prepared for the 11:11 fight with 4 other schools and 2 more in addition, who found us worthy of the contest. My dons had girlfriends. These girls had fathers, with no offense intended, anyone could refer to as half human and half spirits. They were metaphysical, possessing larger-than-life powers. This access placed us in the advantage, one would think. Not to scare you, my then girlfriend had once restored the life of a female student, healed a barren teacher, and crippled a politician. Quite powerful, with an epic irony when it came to me. You can't blame her. Love took over. Or God did. On God, I used to think he stopped caring. If he were everlasting, giving me the privilege to share this burden with some other person should have come quite early. Until a youth corps member visited my school. He was the living answer to my silent prayers. I recall hearing him say my confession took him on a journey of fulfillment and love. Hence his quest to further help many more boys and share the struggles of a number of boys. Weekends were dramatic until I could figure out the routine. My father's wife had a 9 to 5, leaving me no chance but devoting a whole day to filling up that sex tank. Friday nights to mid-Saturdays were it. There really wasn't any need for sex bills because I had mastered the act of pleasure and satisfaction. The quieter side of me on Saturdays found me buried in books. Beyond strategy, it was my only way of escape. Leaving this entirely behind, more so my country home could afford a Harvard University scholarship for outstanding students. Sundays were solemn, especially after church. Even my dad's wife was familiar with the trend. Call it my personal space day. I would visit Mama's grave, unbottling my emotions, talking about all that had happened, apologizing for the disappointment, blaming myself for not protecting her every time Dad had hit her. How close I was to getting the scholarship and how much I had missed her. I always wanted to hear her respond. A desire exacerbated 5 months and a few weeks away from 11:11. It was a Friday after youth corps member B and his friend had taught on the subject, the mind and its functionality, healing, creation, and meditation. Corps member B often said he always knew I was struggling with something until the opportunity showed up behind him in a note which I gave out my Sunday hangout address. The visit to the cemetery with Effiong wasn't quite flattering. However, the invitation pronounced my conviction about Effiong's desire for deliverance and a different heart to bear his pain. This, up until today, keeps the hope of a positive impact alive. Present day corps member B. Youth corps member B at the graveyard observed my usual protocol. You could refer to it as a religious activity. Man is a spiritual being. Visiting Mama's tomb was my connection to the spiritual. I wasn't the only person who couldn't bear the pain. I felt arms wrapped around my thick muscles, then tears distorted our both speeches. All I heard him say was, "Jesus can hear you." And Jesus was listening. We both knew. The whistling trees ceased to breathe as leaves fell in peace. We could hear more than our conversation. It wasn't us. It was him. This experience ranked first place in all of my experiences of God is love. At that moment, it was clear I needed a father, as I had lost the meaning to the word fatherhood. That night changed my world for good. It's changed the world for good. 11:11, Chapter 6. 12 a.m., my phone wouldn't stop ringing. My dons at the other end read in tons of questions. They were all concerned about the 11:11. We were 4 days away. I was to give the orders. The week of the meltdown allowed for finishing touches and less academic engagement. Parents who could not bear the thought of losing their children sent them to neighboring states, some even as far as Lagos, while waiting weeks long before prompting their return. In compensation for their parental concerns, some were attacked, especially when their children were found wanting by a don in the same school or a rival school. 11:11 gave government-owned school an opportunity to relieve the civil war all in a day. The Black Friday left behind memories. Sad as it may be, everyone got used to it except me and the student I had an influence over. I had just received a new life, new direction, and had been relieved of all of the hate my heart could bore. This shouldn't scare you. Dons of this week of academic disaster go to hiding. Reasons associated with spiritual fortification. This rule applied to everyone. It was a wrong time for a pupil from a different school to visit, as the victim may be considered a mole. But I broke the rule. 9 a.m. It was a Monday morning, scarier than ever. Teachers gave a disciplinary holiday. Latecomers didn't get to kneel, cut grass, or pick pins by the school gate. The focus was being security alert. And we knew that plan could change as rival groups made an impression of killings from Monday. It was also no news that this group had political support, especially in finances, provision of ammunition, spiritual fortification, hospitalization, some of which ended suffering from a full-blown psychosis. I presently cannot fathom what a school dropout without a clear sense of direction was to a politician, aside hating his or her hooliganism as opposed to thought mentorship, value transfer, and state development. Nah, my role wasn't and still isn't to judge. My plea was simply to ask Esther, the school head girl at the time, present-day wife, to put a call through to Youth Corps Member B. Remember the Youth Corps member? He had to resume at his place of primary assignment, PPA, on Monday. But at that time, we all knew we needed him. Esther shared how I blew my cover and my testimony of meeting Jesus, my desire to help any other person meet him, the desire to change the state's educational experience together. She said the end of my sincere and a bit lengthy heart pour almost got me choked, not just by the thick emotion at the school assembly ground, but an overwhelming hug from students from the junior secondary school. For them, they saw a mentor and much more someone who they could humanly trust and respect to protection from the threat of 11:11 with realities they, their guardian, and parents couldn't afford. News went round on how the entire academic period, inclusive of the break period, saw heart-to-heart counseling from student to student, class to class, and the height of it, a crusade. I gave my heart out practically that day, listening to everyone who cared to share their ordeals, from homelessness to orphan status, maltreat, rape, false accusation, intimidation into courtism. All of this brought a few more tears to the memories we created. Safe to say, we had an untelevised revolution that day. Prayers, smiles, hugs, and words to reaffirm hope blessed the clouds to pour. That pour didn't settle well with the other dons and the association of girlfriends until the next day. Tuesday started with prayers for the Dons. Their promise to live their lives as mine paved the way to confessing Jesus as Lord was awesome. Youth Corps member B was proud at the fact that all of this was done in his absence. Leadership, he often said, required leaders, and where leaders were made, it was certain that a fleet of followers would be saved.